Hey guys, Zomfox here. Today we're going to be bringing back a bit of an old thing we used to do on the channel in the Minor News Monthly Recap. Now, yes, we're technically not out of October, but really this past week we've gotten a ton of news that really didn't justify its own video or even its own YouTube short in a lot of ways. So we're going to be going over all that news that has come out. And this is the first time we've done this since, I believe, January of this year. But we have 6 total stories to talk about today. And these range from players getting signed to the NFL to a potential massive return in the UFL. So, without further ado, let's get started with the fact that we have now had 80 UFL players signed to an NFL team. It happened. Jalen Dalton was the 80th player to do so, signing to the Dallas Cowboys practice squad. Now, I think that this has changed. I think one of the guys ended up getting released since this article came out from the UFL's official site back in the 16th. But essentially, there have been 18 players that are currently on a roster of some way, whether they be an active roster, practice squad, or in the injured reserve. So, I think that's down to 17 now. I could be mistaken, but Jalen Dalton is the 80th player to do so. Look, I talked about the last time we talked about players signed, but this is, if I'm not mistaken, the highest we've seen since maybe the AAF, I believe. I always kind of get them mixed up a little bit, but it was either the AAF or the XFL 2.0 had about 90-ish players get signed, if I'm not mistaken, but 80 players getting signed is crazy. I mean, I believe last year we had about 90-something between both leagues. And for this to be in one league to see this happen is crazy. Look, when I made my 3 myths video, I said in that video that the idea that players weren't signing because of the schedule was terrible and that was a bad idea. It was just timing. Look, that take aged like the finest wine you'll ever see because a few months later, the UFL is outpacing both the USFL and XFL 3.0 in players signed to the NFL. Look, the schedule of the season doesn't really matter. If anything, it may have hurt them to have it as an earlier schedule. It is great to see another player sign, especially that we're in this, basically midway through the season. I get we're not technically midway, but we're pretty much there. But it's great to see. 80 players have signed to an NFL team, which is just crazy. And again, people will try to say that it's not a huge deal because they're not playing and all that. A big reason you want to play in the UFL is to just get an NFL contract. You'll get a lot more money for a very short amount of time in the NFL. And that's what a lot of these players are going to get. And then some of them, like Jake Bates, he just had his best game in his NFL career this past weekend. So we might see some of these guys end up becoming these, superstar players at their position, mainly the kicker position, admittedly, but we'll see. Now, the next story is going to be that UFL season tickets are available for public purchase outside of the Michigan Panthers. Look, there's a couple articles that came out there about the Panthers that seemingly forgot that the Panthers have already announced that the 22nd is the earliest that they can go on sale publicly, as they had their season ticket renewal be to the 22nd because of how late it came out on. And yes, the Panthers, we still technically have no confirmation about them playing at Ford Field, but all reports and all internal belief is that they are going to be back at Ford Field. It's just going to take a while for them to make it, set in stone. But overall, for the regular season ticket memberships, the cheapest one is the Battlehawks at $18 per game, depending on where your seats are, and the most expensive is DC at $23. So yes, $100 is enough to basically get 5 games. And actually, with everything else like fees and all that, it'll probably cost you basically $150 is your max, but it's cheap to go to all these games, of course, and it's great. And of course, they had, the confirmation that the UFL Championship game is on the 14th of 2025 June, which we all pretty much knew that, but it's good to see. Again, these are things that we love seeing get done early on in the season. We're not even in November yet. We're getting a ton of news about the UFL, about tickets becoming on sale. We know every team's home and away matchup. We just don't know the full schedule. Who knows? Maybe we get that in November, which will be crazy to see, but again, it's great to see this whole thing happen and all these tickets are available already. Next is the fact that the Battlehawks have signed a second round NFL pick receiver to their team. Now, it feels like it was only a week ago, but 2 weeks ago, the Battlehawks made a huge splash signing when they signed former Arizona Cardinals second round pick Andy Isabella. And just a couple of days ago, they did it again, signing a former Jets second round pick in Denzel Mims. Now, Isabella was pretty much on an active roster up until 2023, where he really didn't do anything for Buffalo, and then he was out of football. Before that, he had a couple of years with the Cardinals, his rookie and sophomore year, where he had, he had some catches, but really didn't do much for the team. And Denzel Mims actually had a really solid rookie season. He only played in about half the games, starting 8, playing in 9 of them, and had 350 yards, but after his rookie season, he was never the same player, stat-wise and all that, and so his career pretty much was over after that. And now both these guys are with the St. Louis Battlehawks. Look, I want to be really excited about this, but first of all, when you're picked high in an NFL draft, it's because you have a lot of potential. It doesn't mean you're going to be a great player, right? So these guys have a lot of potential, but we've seen guys, like a Robert Kimdichie signed with Michigan, right? And then he ended up not even making the team and all that. Just because you're a high draft pick does not mean you're going to be great in spring football. And with the receiver position, this past year, the Battlehawks had what many would consider 4 elite receivers. And their offense was really a disappointment. They had about like a 3-week stretch that was really good, but outside of it, the offense was pretty lackluster for most of the year. So I want to be really excited about these signings, but in all honesty, I would have been more excited if these signings had been to other teams. Had they been to a Michigan, had they been to a DC in Arlington, I feel like I would have been more happy about them. Because again, St. Louis had 4 elite receivers and only did so much in offense. I hope these guys play well, and it is great to see more high draft picks go to the UFL and be willing to play there. But, we'll see what the future holds for both these guys. I wouldn't be shocked if one of these guys makes the roster and one doesn't. I just feel like with a lot of these, high-end signings in a lot of ways, that seems to be what happens, but we'll see. And next we're going to have the 2 UFL contests that are currently out right now. So if you go to the Birmingham Stallions Twitter, and I think Instagram probably, you can actually go vote to have a chance to win a custom Stallions jersey or 2 sideline passes for a home game. You put in some information and you just rank all the home matchups for the season. Simple. You have a chance to win some pretty cool stuff. And then the United Football League Superfan Halloween Costume Contest. So there's a huge sale going on the UFL site with a lot of stuff that they're just trying to, fully sell out on, obviously. But there's some good stuff that's on sale. And if you buy something, post a picture with a Halloween costume on and tag the UFL's main page, you have a shot to win either a $100 voucher for the UFL shop and a $50 voucher for Under Armour, or you will get 4 tickets to any regular season UFL game, which does not include travel, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a pretty nice thing. It's a great sale, again, and this time you have something else. So last big sale they had, of course, had the essentially free drawstring bag in it. This time the sale, has the potential, if you want to, post a Halloween contest or costume of yourself, a chance to win 4 tickets to a game. So it's pretty cool there. I think that's nice to see these, special things going on again during October when we're not even in spring football season yet. It's great to see these stuff. Custom Stallions jersey, I would be interested to see exactly what that is because, again, debatably should be available in the shop, but this 2 sideline passes would be cool to win. So, go check the UFL shop and the Stallions social media pages for those. And then the second to last one we have is going to be the UFL Championship location in 2025. Now, this is a UFL News Hub article. Like I said, there's a lot of, question marks about every article there, but this one, from what I've heard everywhere, does look to be very, very, valid. Essentially, the initial reports and rumors were that Audi Field was going to host the 2025 UFL Championship game. Now, because of the fact it's an MLS stadium, there's a lot of issues with planning for how many teams play there and all that. And essentially, it's to a point where because of a FIFA World Cup game being played on the 15th, there's no way to fully change the field within the time frame, and so it is out of consideration. Now, pretty much the 2 stadiums we know for sure will not host it then are Audi Field and the Battle Dome. Essentially, St. Louis, right, we all know about it. St. Louis was a complete failure attendance-wise this past year. As while their announced number was good, as we've talked about, there was less than 15,000 people that were actually at the game. And when you talk about 15K people in a place that holds 60 plus, that looks horrific. So we know they're out of consideration, and now Audi Field is out of consideration. Now, San Antonio, the Alamodome, did host the championship game for the XFL just 2 years ago, when this game gets played. So they're considered out for it as well. Currently, the favorite is Protective Stadium in Birmingham. I mean, I get it. Birmingham had decent attendance, not great, but decent. But at the same token, it's like, Birmingham is of all the teams, they're the one that's had the most amount of delays and issues with games being played due to weather and all that. It's an outdoor stadium. So there's a lot of question marks there. Now, I get not wanting to bring it back to a place you just had it, like, the Alamo Dome. But I kind of wish they would have, considered like a Ford Field or something like that and just only sell tickets on the first stage. It's just like when you have a dome stadium, you don't have any issues really with weather because once you go in the stadium, it just feels great in there. But I kind of get why they're picking Protective. I do think that, a neutral site game, like at Canton is a good idea. I know some other YouTubers don't seem to understand why neutral site games are so good. And that's because when you have a game like at a Tom Benson's Memorial, Stadium, when you have it there and you buy a ticket for that game, you are essentially committing to say, I'm going to go to that place, right? You're committing to going somewhere far. So you're probably going to have to think about travel plans for it, right? With St. Louis, the Battlehawks were in the playoffs. People in St. Louis thought they'd be able to go. They don't make it. They only spent so much on tickets and they live right nearby, so none of their plans change. Whereas if you go to a neutral site stadium like the Hall of Fame Stadium, odds are you're planning a trip there, right? You're planning to go to Cleveland to go see like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, to go see a game there for like the Guardians or something. You're planning to go to the actual NFL Hall of Fame. So I do wish they would think about going to Canton again, but Protective, I can see it and I get it. I would have liked them to be at Audi Field, but you know what? Protective is a decent backup plan there. I'm not shocked that they're not doing Memphis because of the attendance there, but we'll see exactly what ends up happening. We've still got time to find out because remember last year they announced it like right before the season or right in the first week of the season where it was going to be. So we still got time to find out, so we'll see. And then last is Deestroying. That's right, Donald De La Hoya is talking about coming back to the UFL. Now, he says he's leaning towards coming back, but he has some return conditions. Now, the return conditions he essentially wants is more free time to do stuff like videos, business stuff like that, basically less practice, and then have meetings that are later in the day. The later meetings, I don't think that's that big a deal. It's not like it's going to be, something that people are going to say is just for him kind of thing. But the less practice, more free time, yeah, I mean, Travis Feeney, one of the best linebackers in the league, said this is a joke in response to it. The Mark Cass, big YouTuber that, controversial to some people, he also joked about, a guy that, he basically said, a guy that broke his neck tackling is actually trying to have demands, which is wild. I hate to say it, but I kind of agree with that. It is kind of wild that he wants to have these demands. Again, the later meetings I think is fully understandable, but to have more free time, I get it. He brought a lot of attention to the league. The Brahma's social media is all boomed when he, got signed there. At the end of the day, the UFL is about players playing football and trying to get back to the NFL. Yes, some of these guys are pretty much just content playing football and, guys who aren't getting NFL shots, especially because we're going to be coming in year 4 of the UFL, and some of these guys who have been in the USFL from 2022 till now that have never been signed, no, they're not gonna, but they want to keep playing football. This feels like a guy who's just having it as a secondary goal, right? He basically is talking about football as the second project to him. But for a lot of these other guys, it is either them wanting to continue this being their living or trying to get back to the NFL. So it does feel very entitled for him to say that. I get it. He's, a big star and all that. And it is 100% true. His subscriber count on YouTube annihilates the UFL, which again is true. But I don't think that Deestroying is going to make or break this league. And part of me feels like it's going to be some sort of bad press to sign him and then give him all these demands. This isn't just, signing a quarterback and giving him slightly more money or a decent amount more money than other players. This is literally letting a guy have less practice time than other people, which, again, he's a kicker, but, again, he's a kicker, so it's not like he's really practicing, the same amount of things as other guys are. I don't know, I feel it's kind of weird. I get that he's coming from that realm. I do think it's in the best interest of the league for him to be back. It's just, it feels kind of whack that he would say this stuff, especially publicly, because, if you're going to be a teammate of his and you see him like leave practice early or something to go do something else, you're gonna feel a certain way about it. So in that regard, I don't think it's a great thing. And I wouldn't be shocked if other guys like a Travis Feeney might try to, hunt him down on kickoffs or something like that to, try and, hit a huge block on him just because of issues like that, petty stuff like that. So that's what I will say, right? It's a controversial one. Let me know what you guys think down below. I personally think that if you want to give him later meetings, I think that's totally fine. It's not just a benefit for him, it's benefit for other people. But the less practice time for himself, I wouldn't bend the knee to that. I would only give the later meetings. We'll see what ends up happening, though. Again, we still got a few months before the season starts, so we'll see. And overall, that'll do it. This has been ZomFox. Again, we brought back the minor news monthly recap again. If more news comes out in the next week or two, I might update the comments of it, but there was a lot of stuff that came out this week, and I just thought it would be a good time to bring back this series where whenever we have a ton of minor news, we just, make a video of it. So if you like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're getting closer and closer to 900 subscribers. We're less than 25 away. And of course, we're doing a giveaway at 1,000 subscribers. And as always, guys, have a great night.